Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith. Today we're going to finish off our Deep Madness unboxing marathon here, which feels like a marathon because we're hitting, our 6th unboxing video for Deep Madness, but this will be the final one. It's going to be comprised of a bunch of epic monsters in the middle here, as well as some of the dice packs you can pick up for the game, as well as the plastic doors, plastic token packs, card holders, essentially, like the red and blue can hold mini cards and large standard cards. You got some extra bases here and the art book. So this is literally going to show you everything that's possible to pick up from the original Kickstarter. So hopefully it gives you a very good idea of what to expect in the upcoming Kickstarter, which was scheduled and still is scheduled, to my knowledge, to be the end of October. So without further ado, how about we start cracking into some of these boxes and seeing these things close up. So let's move past the quickest things to show you right away, and that's going to be the 3D Hatch Pack as well as the Black Bases Pack. These packs essentially come obviously plastic wrapped. This one is going to give you some more black bases. So this is a great product because of course it's going to allow you to click these things onto your miniatures and have just more of them available. Again, these do come inside the core box, so this is just additional ones. Could have come as stretch goals, I kind of forget. It's been a bit, so you're going to have to forgive me on that. But basically, more black bases right there. This one is really cool because it's going to give you an enhancement to the game. It's going to take them from just having nothing that's representing the doors physically to an actual full-blown 3D plastic model sitting on your game board, which again, then you can paint and make it look even cooler. So these are actually really, really cool. There's really a lot of depth with these. So when you're painting these, you're going to have a lot of fun. If you're into painting, they're thick. They hold up really well. They stand up great, but they're not just flat as a bone. They have depth to them, and I think that's the coolest part. So there's one side of the door right there, if you can see that, and then flipping it to the opposite side. So again, you're going to be able to have a field day doing whatever you want with that. The next pieces are these right here. These are called, if I can find the name on the box, here it is, 2-in-1 card holder box. Now you might have seen these from companies like Simon. Basically, they are a plastic card holder for the mini cards as well as the standard cards. I find these are really useful for storage because not only can you put your cards from your base game, for instance, inside of these, close them up, put them in the box, and you can store them closed. That's pretty cool, keeps the cards from flying around, but also they separate during gameplay, as you can see here in the picture, so that you can actually have sets of cards, either like a draw pile and a discard pile side by side for the mini cards, and then side by side for the standard cards. I'm not going to bother opening these ones up on this video because they're pretty self-explanatory, but you can see they basically come apart on an angle, they go back together if you want to store them on an angle, and they sit so that cards can be placed inside of them. Pretty awesome. So those are the card holders for Deep Madness. Next up is the dice bag for Deep Madness, which is pretty cool. So as you can see here, has the logo of Deep Madness right on the bag itself. Pretty awesome. On top of that, you've got the actual dice that are inside of the core game. You're going to have one of these giant die, which is pretty cool. You can see all the different sides on this one and the different symbols, things like that. It's pretty awesome. Again, I'll explain all of this when we get to the actual showcase and the playthrough as to what all this means, but the die is very high quality, looks really good, nice and polished and engraved. Now if you take a look at these dice here, these are the more standard dice for the game. So like this one here, for instance, this one has a 6 side that also has this symbol, which if I'm understanding correctly means success, and there's a 5 side that's success. The rest are just numbered 1 through 4. So we'll talk more about that again during gameplay, but you're going to get a number of these in the core game. So as you can see here, I believe I have 9 of these red dice and then 1 of these large dice. Now, you can also pick up with Deep Madness additional dice packs because it's always cool to have additional dice, especially if you're playing with multiple players or you just want, as a solo player, to have more dice at your disposal. So you can always pick up an additional pack, and it looks like this. Of course, these dice are the exact same as those ones, so they're going to give you the exact same color coordination, all that kind of stuff. But again, really good for another player. The other cool thing is you can pick up a dice pack that has a totally different color scheme. So black dice with the red numbering and then a white die instead. So that's kind of cool. So that's one option. Or you can change it up and go with white dice and have a black die. So with this type of a setup, you've got enough dice here to cover 4 players having their own major die as well as all of these D6s mixed in. So what I'm going to do is I'll rip this packaging out. We'll dump all these dice in this dice bag. So just like that, we've got all of the dice packs broken open so I can show you guys these up close and personal. I'm going to grab a couple dice from each of the different packs, maybe 2 of each, so you can see the different colors and how they look. But again, it's just really cool to have the differences, especially if you're playing with multiple players, so you can all have different dice. It's not necessary, but it's really cool. I have a massive addiction to dice. I just love them. So being able to have color-coordinated dice for each player, where every player knows what die pack they're using, is pretty cool. Obviously, in this situation, I have 2 sets that are the same, but that's okay. This will allow me to have 4 full sets for 4 players. But again, you can just use 1. It's up to you. But wonderfully, all of these dice can easily be stored inside the Deep Madness bag itself, which is awesome because a dice bag is definitely needed when you have a decent pile of dice like this. And then it has the nice drawstrings to keep it all secure, and you can store it away inside your core game. Next up, we have 2 investigators that we can add into the world of Deep Madness. This one here is John Murdoch. So he's got, of course, his figure there. Now, one thing I want to mention about this, guys, is not only these 2 new investigators, but you want to be careful when you're cracking these boxes open, because I just realized while cracking open the dice, you don't have to worry about anything inside of the dice boxes because you're just unboxing dice. But when you open up one of these investigator boxes, be 100% careful with cutting along the top edge here, because behind what looks to be just a throwaway cover is actually an investigator card as well as a activation card you can see at the very top there, including the figure. If you cut straight across like this aggressively, you're going to literally cut that card in half. Likely. I don't know, but just be careful when you go ahead and cut those. Don't be as reckless as I was when I cut the dice ones open. The dice ones, at least, I don't have to worry about them. But in this case, I'm going to now unbox these off camera so I can bring them back and show you guys exactly what they look like. This one right here is Ward Phillips, so another individual. Of course, it's very hard to see inside the container. So let's go ahead and crack these open so I can show you them up close. So the nice thing about these is you don't even have to actually cut them open. You can literally open them up. They're like a clamshell design. So again, don't be fooled. It looks like it's something that needs to be cut. It doesn't need to be with these investigators. It can literally just be popped open. And as you can see, like I said, if I had to cut straight through, I would have easily destroyed the cards inside. So you want to be really careful with that. And there's also mini cards inside there as well. So let's talk about each of the figures here. So the first one is John Murdoch. So this is his investigator figure. I'll wait for this to get into focus for us. There you go. So you can see the details of the miniature. Very, very cool. Right down to the what looks to be a nice shirt. All the buttons on it and everything. Here is the back of that particular miniature. So if you're looking to paint it, looks like it's got nice details. Looking pretty good. Again, it follows the same brown flavor that you see with all the investigators in Deep Madness. Oh wow, so there's not just one investigator card, there's one for every language in here. That's pretty, they definitely wanted to cover all the bases, so that's pretty smart. So obviously the mini card for the, this is more so is used during activations and things like that. I'll talk more about that, how that works later on, but you need one of these things if you're using that character. And then of course you've got multiple different ones for him, but the only one that matters in my case is the English version. I have all these other ones that I won't be using. So let's go ahead and take a look at his card. First off, on the very back of his card, it's got a wonderful story here about him. So I'll just give it a second here for my camera to focus in, and there you go. So you can see his whole backstory right there. If you'd like to read it, just to find out more about him, you can pause it. And then on the front side of his card, he's got 9 health, 3 sanity. Down here in the bottom left, he has a number which I'm not 100% familiar with yet, but I will be soon enough. Justice is served. Attack. After a monster is killed, you may immediately restore 1 sanity. Starting clues. Once per activation, you may exhaust 1 sanity to reveal the top card of the consciousness deck. Then choose an investigator to resolve this card. And he looks like he starts with a revolver. He is a detective. Cool. So now we kind of know a little bit more about him. Let's find out more about Ward Phillips. So let's pop the back of this thing out and see exactly what we got. What does Ward do? What is his role? And we don't even know, is it a he or she? I think it is. It definitely is a he. Let's see here. Okay. Here he is. reading his book. Again, gotta wait for that focus to kick in. There we go. So nice detail on the miniature itself. Looking pretty good. Is that a book? He is... Yeah, he's got his hand by his... Yeah, he's got his one hand up on the book and the other hand is down below. Kind of looks like there's like an actual like tentacles coming out of the book itself. I don't know if you guys can see that. But on the book itself, there's tentacles literally coming out. His other hand is underneath the book. That's pretty cool. If we flip him over to the other side, his back, not as exciting. But very cool. Miniatures doesn't come with any bending or anything like that. Of course, we got the cards for him. So let's take a look more about him. And look at that. He is definitely got those tentacles. I was bang on. I was like, what the heck are those things? And that's as Cthulhu as you get. So... Again, same situation. You're going to get yourself a mini card for the character in question. So in this case, Ward Phillips. We have the English version of Ward Phillips, and of course his backstory right here. So if you want to pause and take a read, you can to find out more about him than I happen to know. Ward Phillips is an 8 strength or 8 health and 5 sanity. And he's got 4 in the bottom there. He's an intrepid dreamer. Once per activation, you may perform a free rest. Rewriting the narrative. When an investigator resolves a madness card, you may reveal 1 additional madness card for each 1 sanity you exhaust. The current investigator then chooses 1 to resolve and discard the other. Sorry. He starts with the neck. Oh, that makes so much more sense now. So the course is starting. That's really cool. That would be interesting to paint that. That'd be really cool. And he's a novelist, so that kind of explains the writing. Awesome. So, with that being said, we have now covered the 2 different investigators that are going to be added into the game. So let's get these guys off the table and move into the plastic token pack. Alright, so we got the plastic token pack right here in front of us. We'll be definitely using this during the showcase, which is really cool because it's obviously going to enhance the look of the game itself. I love plastic token packs. I don't know why, I'm just a sucker for them. There's many games that use these things, and I do enjoy them quite a bit because it just adds to the quality. It also just adds to the handling of the components. So again, it looks like we've got the trackers in here, which I believe is a major component of the game in terms of the rounds. We'll learn more about that as we go through because I'm not familiar with it yet. We've also got all kinds of other tokens in here, probably regarding health and insanity and madness. There's madness on one side, insanity on the other. You've got health on the bottom there, 5, 6s, all the different values. This one here, these ones here I'm not familiar with at all, so let's go ahead and pop this thing off. We'll take a quick look at the top section of the plastic tokens to find out what they are, but I'll give you a better, closer look without the actual packaging on. Alright, so I popped all the plastic tokens outside of the plastic wrap. I've also gone ahead and ripped this thing off the top. So we got 1 devourer marker. My guess is the devourer marker is either this one here or it's this one here. I'm not sure which of the 2 it is, but it's got to be the one of the ones that's only a single. The other one's an activation marker. So there you go, devour and activation. Not sure which is which yet, but we'll find out soon enough. In terms of the quality of these things, they sound nice. They have a nice design on the actual the plastic token itself. It does pop quite nicely. So you can flip these over like this. These 2, I believe, are exact same on both sides, but most of these ones are double-sided. The next one here is 14 track blocks, so that's obviously going to be these things right here. So, of course, they're now in wonderful plastic instead of being in cardboard, and they have a nice sound to them. I don't know if you can hear that, but they sound like puzzle pieces. And you'll also notice that these tracks also have punch-outs. So some of the tracks are solid through. You can't move anything inside of them. But based on the game mechanics, which I still don't understand yet, but I will be very soon, you can put certain markers inside of this track. So, of course, it's customizable per scenario, per different thing that you're doing in the game. And the story will actually set that up for you. So this right here is very cool. I like this design. And, of course, you can just pop these things in and out. So here's an example of one being popped out of its frame. Just like that, and then if you want to put it back in, simply just click it back into place, flat, and just like that, you're good. You can lay it down, and then you start connecting other ones together. So it's pretty cool. Health markers, these ones are nice and small. They sound quite nice. They also look really good, so obviously they're going to be a big step up from whatever you're used to in the cardboard fashion. These ones over here, there's ones called slow and weakened markers. I don't know, maybe it's these ones. Not too sure, but there's these markers here, which I'm not 100% sure of. This one could be, I'm not sure what that one is, to be honest. There's the other one. So those could be, I'm not too sure. It could be slow and weak, I'm not sure. These big ones, not too sure on these ones either, but they're double-sided, so I'll show you up close. They look like that. And we've got the Madness Insanity. This is the only one I'm actually definitely sure of. So you can see, there you go. So you can flip these over and they have the opposite on either side. So they're useful twice over. So that is all of the plastic tokens. Again, this is just going to allow you to have the plastic version of what already comes in the core box. So not necessary, but again, will help bling out your game of Deep Madness. Moving right along to the Epic Monster boxes. These are the final pieces to the unboxing and probably the most exciting for me. I really am interested to see what these Epic Monsters look like. This one here is Penitent and Forsaken, or Penitent, if I'm even saying that correctly. Somebody in the comments can let me know if I'm goofing that up, but regardless, they come in boxes like this. So I'll show you guys the outside. I've already taken the plastic wrap off, but I've never opened this myself. Inside it contains 2 monster figures, 2 monster cards, and 2 spawn cards. So, without further ado, let's take a look at the inside of this thing. This should be pretty cool. So some of these boxes have like one giant monster, and some of them share a box with another monster. So in this case, there's 2 in this one. So this, here we go. We got the first one. We got a couple packs of cards in here, so we're going to have to cut into these to show you them. So we'll do that later, but I'll show you guys the miniatures first. This one here looks to be Penitent, I believe. So this is the Penitent miniature. It looks pretty horrific. I'll give you kind of a spin of that whole thing so you can see it from all the different angles. Pretty cool. The hair's crazy. Definitely don't want to be running into that. So there's that miniature. And then this one here is Forsaken. So as you can see, this is Forsaken. Spin it around. You can see the back of it. The details are really good. It's very ugly looking for sure, but these are epic monsters. So there's 2 of them. So we got the, what I believe to be the spawn cards. I could be totally wrong on that because again, I haven't actually played the game yet, but these are the 2 cards that come inside the pack. The main monster cards themselves look like this. So here we go for one of the monsters, and we've got a bunch of different symbolisms here that I got to figure out as we go through. We got these are like basically listed as to the AI of the game in terms of the different monsters. So basically they'll behave this way. They'll do a move and they'll do a special. So their move is obviously their movement. It even gives you some setup here. Place the Forsaken card beside this card. So the Forsaken card is actually part of this card. So I guess at the end of the day these play off each other, which makes more sense as to why there's only 2 spawn cards for the one and not the other. Because I was wondering why there wasn't any Forsaken in there, but it looks like Forsaken is maybe a more beefed up version of the other. I could be wrong. So here are the abilities for both the cards. I'll let you guys read those for those that are not familiar. And that is going to do it for what you can expect to get inside of this Epic Monster expansion. Next up, we're going to take a look at one called Dimension Rift. This is an epic monster, so this should be just 1 miniature in the box, so maybe the size of this thing will get a little bit larger. This is what the outside of the box looks like. Again, once you've actually unboxed the thing, you may or may not want to keep the box, but this is 1 monster figure, 1 monster card, and 2 spawn cards. So let's find out what's inside. I've already taken the plastic wrap off, and I have never opened this box before. So I don't know what it's going to look like. Don't know what to expect. Alright. So, oh, check that out. That's pretty cool. So here is the Dimension Rift Epic Monster. Let's see if I can get that to focus. It wants to. It's trying to. There we go. Pretty cool backdrop there with the gigantic stones. You can see the base is actually really cool. Again, I love that when miniatures, especially the epic ones or the most important miniatures of the game, have a really nice base to them that you can actually just paint and you don't have to add anything to it. That's really cool. So you can turn this around, you can see all the detail there. That's awesome. This is a really cool miniature. I like this one. Okay, we got the cards out of the pack. So here are the spawn cards for this particular monster. These 2 right here. And then we have the actual monster card itself, Dimensional Rift. At the very top right, you can see, or left I should say, you see the icon for 3. Got some artwork there to match the miniature. The special, actually this particular miniature actually does specials twice. Move all the investigators within Dimension Rifts, I'm not sure what that icon means just yet, but I will in the future, into its space and deal 2 damage to each of them. If there is no such investigator, it performs a move instead. Ah, okay. Interesting. So it's going to grab things when it can. If it can, it's going to move. An investigator's line of sight cannot get into, through, or out of the Dimensional Rift space. Interesting. Kind of makes sense based on the name. After Dimension Shift, I think I said Dimensional, I meant Dimension. Dimension Rift takes wounds, move it to an adjacent space that contains the least number of investigators. Cool. Alright, so that covers the Dimension Rift Epic Monster. The next one is Insidious Epic Monster. Okay, so this one is going to be, I think this one's quite a bit larger, I could be wrong. This one here has 7 monster figures, 1 monster card, and 2 spawn cards. Huh, interesting. That I did not expect. 7 miniatures in this one, so this thing must be creating other things or have little minions that it moves about, I don't know. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. Alright, so we got ourselves miniatures here. We got ourselves some cards. Let's take a look at the miniature. Ooh, look at this. Oh, that's creepy. So this thing's got eggs, or something that resembles eggs. There's 6 of them. Here they are up close. So you can see the details on them. Pretty nasty looking. So I'm guessing that this all ties into the gameplay for this particular monster. Very cool. Very cool. I like that. And here's the monster itself. Not exactly the kind of thing that you want to run into. Pretty gross. It looks like it's literally just planting eggs everywhere. That looks terrifying. Okay, so let's crack these cards open and find out exactly what this thing does. Alright, we got the packaging off of the cards, and now we can take a closer look at these things. Here's the artwork on the spawn cards. There you go, and then we're going to take a closer look at the monster card. So the monster card has artwork that looks like this. On the very central part of the card here, we got special, move, and attack. Is that what it'll do? So special is it's going to spawn an egg, so that's why there's so many eggs. If the nearest egg from any investigator is nearer to an investigator than Insidious, Insidious then exchanges its position with that egg. Oh, wow. After Insidious is killed, remove the nearest egg and immediately spawn Insidious in that space. Eggs are monsters, maximum health 3, and cannot move for any reason. Wow. So that thing is just kind of one of those things where, like, it's just annoying. Like, it just constantly is putting eggs down, and if you're not dealing with those eggs, it can come back to haunt you. That's really, really cool. I like that mechanic. So that's everything inside of the Insidious Epic Monster Box. Here's one that's pretty cool, the Spawn of the Sleeper Epic Monster. So I'll show you the front of the box for this one, pretty awesome. Sides of it look like this. Artwork is pretty cool. What does it contain? 7 monster figures, 2 monster cards, and 2 spawn cards. So another one with 7 miniatures inside. So this is probably one that's going to have a whole bunch of little nasty minions along with it. So let's see exactly what they look like. So, pack of cards as normal. And another pack of cards. And oh, look at these. These are really cool. Check that out. So, wow. Those are interesting. Look at those miniatures. That's pretty cool looking. So you get 6 of these in the box. And the one that's the coolest, oh, check that out. Now that's a large miniature. The wings on it, that is pretty creepy. You really don't want that thing showing up on the board with you. That's pretty aggressive. That's awesome. I like that. Alright, so let's crack these 2 packs of cards open and find out more about the Spawn of the Sleeper expansion. Okay, we got the cards out of the packaging. We're ready to take a closer look at these ones. So first off, we've got Spawn of the Sleeper cards here. These are the cards that allow us to actually spawn this character into the game. We've got the tentacle card here for the monster. So this tentacle card looks just like this, has a move, and it says tentacle is activated before Spawn of the Sleeper. After the Spawn of the Sleeper is spawned, using the spawn cards of course, immediately spawn all the tentacles in different nearest spaces that do not contain tentacles. An investigator must skip an additional action for each tentacle in the same space to move out of his or her space. So basically making movement extremely tough, wasting actions because of the tentacles there. The Spawn of the Sleeper, the card itself here, looks like this, has these stats on it. We'll do a move, attack, and a special. The setup says place the tentacle card beside this card. See, it's all paired in with this guy. Move. If the spawn of the sleeper is in the same space with a tentacle, at the end of its move, it immediately performs another move. Oh, so it's moving quicker. Almost like it's moving through the tentacles or with the tentacles. Special. Roll that die and spawn X tentacles in X different nearest spaces that do not contain tentacles. X is equal to... Oh my gosh. So this is crazy. This guy seems like his movement ability is scary. Like how fast he'd be able to move around the board. I guess that's the whole purpose. He spawned the sleeper, he uses tentacles, and he moves a lot. So that's hopefully an in-depth look at the Spawn of the Sleeper Epic Monster expansion. And we've done it. We've arrived at the very last box for Deep Madness. This is what the box exterior looks like for the Devourer of Worlds Epic Monster. Little spin there, as you can see all sides. It's got one monster figure, one monster card, and two spawn cards inside. This one I'm excited for because this is probably going to be the most devastating of all of them, I'm guessing. But I'm not really sure which is the toughest one. We'll have to see when we get to... Oh, it's definitely the biggest miniature, that's for sure. That thing is huge. Look at this. Oh my goodness. That's like the size of my fist. That thing is huge and disgusting. So this is the Devourer of Worlds. Look at that miniature. That's wild. There's a lot of nastiness going on this thing. If you want to paint that up, you've got... Oh my goodness, it's got a mouth off the side. That is interesting. Wow. That's crazy. That's a huge miniature. Okay, so we're going to talk about the packs of cards. This is likely going to be really, really bad in terms of adding this to the game because of how devastating this is likely going to be. So the Devourer of Worlds, he doesn't mess around. So let's go ahead, rip the packaging open, and find out what this guy actually does. Cards are out of the packaging. Let's take a closer look. This is the Devourer of Worlds card. So you can see the outside. There's two of them that look just like this. There's also a card for the monster itself, and it looks just like this. Really, really cool artwork on the card itself. Looks fantastic. As a move and a special, specials choose an investigator in the same space and place his or her figure on this card. The abilities printed on his or her investigator card are temporarily treated as blank. At the end of his or her next activation, spawn his or her figure. When a monster is in the same space with Devourer of Worlds, immediately move the monster directly to the spawn space nearest any investigator. Whoa! So this thing is like warping monsters towards the investigators, as well as destroying the investigator's special abilities. That's pretty powerful, and it's really cool because he's a Devourer of Worlds, so he's almost like taking the investigators, sucking them in so that they're useless for a second, and then spitting them back out pretty much. That's crazy. Another thing you can pick up from Deep Madness is the Art of Deep Madness. This is an art book, so for those of you that are really into art books, you'll really like this. So I'm going to show you a few pages of this thing to get a rough idea basically of what's going on inside this art book. So I'm not going to crease any of the pages because I'm super careful about that myself. But you get yourself like a nice introduction page here. You even got the H.P. Lovecraft quotes in here. So again, it's going to go through a bunch of the different artwork for the world itself for Deep Madness. And then of course it's going to get into some of the details. It's really cool. Like this is the Church of the Golden Dawn. We got Consciousness Fusion Experiment, because it's got to explain some of the backstory as to what's really going on here. So it does that through art as well as through narrative storytelling here. You can see there's some pretty creepy pictures here with different characters involved in the game. Some of these characters are actually some of the exclusive ones. Ward here is one of the ones we opened up near the end of the unboxings. And it's going to talk about the corporation that's heavily involved in the mining facility itself. So giving us a nice backstory on what's actually happening. So when you jump into this world, it feels that much more real, plus all that wonderful art. Now on top of this, I did find out that there's actually an audio track that if you look on Kickstarter and search for Deep Madness, you'll find there's a company that put together, and I forget the name exactly. I believe they might have done it for Sword and Sorcery as well. But they've put together some humongous audio tracks, super long ones for this game that you can play while you're actually in a certain area. I believe those audio tracks can run anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes to up to like an hour or 2 hours, which is crazy, so that you can play through an entire playthrough while having actual ambient and kind of mood setting music behind your gameplay, which makes it even better. So we might, and I'm planning to try to add some of that music into the playthrough. Just as background music, it'll be kind of low level so that it doesn't interrupt when I'm speaking and showing you guys how to play the game, but enough to just set the mood of the game itself. So again, it's like most art books. It has fantastic pages just littered with artwork. Again, the game has a vibe of like BioShock mixed with H.P. Lovecraft. It's kind of the vibe you get because of the underwater deep sea mining facility, I guess. And I guess deep sea and underwater are basically the same thing. So you got all these different individuals too, so you can learn about the different characters, which is cool. This is going to be the journey to Kadath. So this is actually the mining facility itself. Then you've got investigators. So it has page by page for every investigator inside the game. So if you're picking a particular one, you can take a quick read of the brief kind of overview of each of them, the different weapons they might be more interested in, or start with the ones that they're better using, I guess. What they do, so if they're a pilot, if they're they might be a special agent or an explorer. There's all kinds of different heroes to pick from. So hopefully this is showing you a decent idea as to what the art book looks like inside. And of course you get to the monsters, and they'll go page by page through every single monster. And of course the monsters in the game based on H.P. Lovecraft are horrific, scary, and they all have different really cool powers and abilities that will show themselves as you play through the game that make them all unique. They move differently, they act differently, they affect you differently. It's really cool. So this is really interesting because not only are you getting a picture of each of them, but if you happen to run into one of them and you want to know more about that particular creature, you can come to the art book, read a little section of information to get even more familiar with the gruesomeness of whatever that particular monster is going to do to you, or whatever it normally does. So this is crazy. There's a lot of monsters in this game. So this is going to go on for quite a few pages. Right now we're at page 75 of the art book. So it's not a skimpy art book. There is not like a small amount of content in here. There is a lot of not only pictures but information. So just continuing along through this book, it's like never ending. I'm going to skip a few pages. We're getting down to the last epic monsters that we opened up near the end of our unboxing. So we should be getting to the end, but we're already hitting 99 pages. So there you go. It literally is 100 pages on the dot, and it comes down to the about the author section, the artist, and a thank you. So that basically covers the art book. It's 100 pages in length, which I think is very, very fair, as well as gives you some wonderful background to the game itself. Hopefully that shows you the whole art book and gives you an idea as to whether or not it's something you'd like to pick up in the future if you're interested in art books. But again, all this stuff is optional add-ons that you can do if you so please. When this game comes out on Kickstarter, all these will be available again for a second chance for people to jump in on, so that's exciting. So nobody's missing out on any content for Deep Madness. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.